This is Wrestling Hub. My name is John, and you're watching the Wrestling Report for October 21st. Before we get into the rest of the video, make sure you subscribe to Wrestling Hub and turn on all notifications to stay up to date with everything in the world of pro wrestling. Eric Bischoff took to his podcast recently to give advice to Tony Khan, telling him to focus on putting out a good product as opposed to comparing AEW to WWE and taking shots at the latter promotion. While this could be seen as hypocritical, Bischoff did note that he actually went head-to-head with WWE's flagship show during the Monday Night Wars. Now the AEW president has responded on Busted Open Radio. I really like Eric, and I was kind of surprised by Eric's comments, because they were coming from Eric Bischoff. I think Eric Bischoff is probably the last person anyone would expect to say that a president of a wrestling company should be quiet. When it comes to head-to-head competition, we were in one this past week. It was only 30 minutes and I didn't ask for it. We were in our time slot and somebody came into our time slot aggressively. This is the first time on a Friday we've gone head-to-head like that. I thought it was pretty aggressive what they came in with. They loaded it up with the biggest stars they had and had to make a choice. Do I change up the card we have? You have CM Punk, who's one of the biggest names in all of wrestling, and he's wrestling Matt Sydal, who's a great high flyer and a great technical wrestler and very respected, but not the biggest box office name in all of wrestling. That's a great match for the fans. I had to think, do I change that to a crazy box office match to try and go head to head? And no, I didn't. I stuck with the matches we had because I believe in our wrestlers. I was amused by Eric's comments. I like Eric when we're together, but this is the ultimate example, I think, of glass houses in some ways, knowing how Eric conducted himself as the president of WCW. For Eric Bischoff of all people, the guy who got lowered down on a motorcycle from the ceiling, the guy who challenged Vince McMahon to a fight, to say that somebody should be quiet is laughable. Eric is doing an act and I respect it, but let's be serious. Eric used to be a wrestling company executive, and now he is a commentator, and as a commentator he's trying to stir up controversy. I think it would be pretty naive of anybody and not examine that the person talking is Eric Bischoff, who is the most outspoken wrestling executive of all time, and somebody who got a lot of heat, but also somebody that, look, the things that I'm trying to do in terms of balancing the great stars we have like a CM Punk, Chris Jericho, Bryan Danielson, and people who have come in with years of experience. AEW, Rampage, and SmackDown were head-to-head during the Blue Brand's final 30 minutes, which saw WWE up in views, but AEW ahead in the 18 to 49 demographic. Speaking of Rampage going up against SmackDown, AEW EVP Cody Rhodes had this to say about AEW beating WWE in the previously mentioned demo on the Kevin and Corey podcast. It's a bigger deal for them. I don't mean to sound bullish or anything like that, but if they were under the impression that they were going to win in that key demo, there are plenty of people behind the scenes at WWE who are brilliant and great people, but I think there are people in the industry, non-wrestlers, people who have never stepped in the ring, who are leading them down a business path while the business isn't there. We're an alternative. They're the juggernaut of this space. We're the alternative brand. If you're looking at metrics and you work in the offices of that company, you do have to be aware that there is a seismic, earth-shattering shift in the wrestling business. The last time there was this type of shift was in the mid-80s when WWE was taking every territory because he had the TV and they were making a better product, and they deserve all the praise they did, but it's definitely an unreal time. As someone who is an executive in the company that is making these moves, you ask me when I'm standing in the ring with a microphone in my hand, and I'm gonna give you the most competent answer. But it is also very overwhelming to be sitting here and talking to you guys. That's the responsibility. Great power, great responsibility. If the fans are choosing us and not the others, we have to make sure we give them everything they want, and continue to give them the promise of a wrestling company led by wrestlers, and Tony has done such a great job in terms of doing that. Really led the ship in a great way. Following up on Hacksaw Jim Duggan needing emergency surgery yesterday, his wife has posted an update on Twitter writing, "Out of surgery and back in his room. Everything went well. Thank you for your prayers, good vibes, and good thoughts. You can keep them coming in." Thankfully, it would seem the surgery went well, as we wish Duggan the best in his recovery. Mustafa Ali spoke to Metro, recalling a time he went into Vince McMahon's office and asked what was missing from his character, as McMahon simply replied that Ali did not have it in him to be a star. Even pre-pandemic, I was struggling to maintain TV presence, and I know it was all character-based. When you pitch 1,000,001 ideas as far as stories, characters, promos, this and that, and you always get told that you're good, but then nothing happens. You start pointing the finger at everybody except for you. After setting it up for 7 months and then finally coming back to Monday Night Raw, only to pick up a few victories and then go back to not being on Monday Night Raw and now being stuck on main events, you're kind of scratching your head. Like, what have I got to do? And then you realize you've got to go ask the hard questions. I went up to Vince McMahon himself and said, what am I missing? He said, too polished, too clean, too nice. I don't know if you have it in you. Sasha Banks talked about being involved in a WrestleMania main event and had a few opponents in mind. I see myself main eventing WrestleMania either against Nicki Minaj, Charlotte Flair, or Bayley. Those are my top 3 picks. If I predicted that one last year, I feel like any of those are a WrestleMania caliber match. With the revamped version of NXT, WWE has posted a job listing on LinkedIn. As it reads, the NXT creative team is searching for a new writer to join us in Orlando, Florida. NXT develops and produces live weekly original episodic programming 52 weeks a year. At NXT, you will have the opportunity to collaborate with the next generation of WWE superstars who keep their fingers on the pulse of pop culture and their foot on the gas. Built to appeal to a younger audience, NXT follows compelling storylines that defy expectations at every turn, while playing out in front of the most passionate fans in sports entertainment. The creative team's goal is to develop the most captivating stories and larger-than-life characters portrayed by the world's most charismatic and diverse WWE stars. So far, this new NXT has not really brought in new viewers or appealed to the younger demographic, with the average age watching the show being 60+. AEW commentator Jim Ross has had an ulcer for a while, with him taking to Twitter to update fans with a photo as he wrote, "Been dealing with this for over a year. Potential skin cancer issue. CAT scan today. Hopefully for good results. Staying positive. We hope everything is alright with JR and he can continue living his best life." After moving up to the main roster from NXT, Karrion Kross has been seen with a mask and new attire, with him not having Scarlett accompanying him. As reported previously, Kross is expected to change up his look once again, with him taking to Instagram to show his hair grown out. While he said he doesn't feel the pressure of being on Monday Night Raw, we'll have to see how he fares with this new look on the main roster. Following his WWE release, Cody Rhodes can be seen having the run of a lifetime on the independent circuit, competing for numerous promotions. Speaking on the In the Click podcast, he touched on these days, making it clear he doesn't want to be stuck in a bubble. "The number one thing I learned, other than to reconnect with the fans and get the love from them that I had needed at the time, the number one thing I learned is not to be in a bubble. For a decade I had been in the bubble of WWE, and then the fact that AEW was able to happen proves that there were things for outside the bubble. There might even have been a bigger bubble. But even with that, okay, I can't get into a bubble in New Japan. I can't get into a bubble in Impact. I can't get into a bubble in Ring of Honor. All great places, but wrestling has to be for everybody. It really does. It has to represent everybody. That's the number one thing, is not just be this single company individually bubbled up, basically unaware of what's out there. Prime example, I'm aware of Jacob Fatu and MLW. I'm aware of these things that are happening in our industry. And I think everyone from top to bottom, Tony Khan at the top, is aware of what's out there and how perhaps we can connect to it." Cody also talked about working with other promotions, saying AEW is focusing more on homegrown talent. "The Forbidden Door, aka Tony Khan, the Forbidden Door is truly open. We have no qualms about working with anybody from any company. We are focused on the AEW product and the homegrown AEW stars like Sammy Guevara, for example. We have that, and then we have the ability to cross these streams. I just want to continue to make the show destination programming, which it's become. I want to continue to provide some of our free agents that have just joined us some fresh fresh pathways that they can go on, which include a variety of myriad of dream matches, and then continue to cultivate the Dante Martins and the Lee Moriartys. These fresh, beautiful, brand new innocent children who are joining the wrestling business are so talented. That's the goal, and you know, there's a lot of wrestlers out there. We'll continue to grow the roster, the more the merrier, because we continue to grow our footprint on Warner Media, so we want to give them the best wrestling, and currently we do that. Cody is set to be a part of a luchador tag team, as we'll have to see how that goes for the American Nightmare. In the finals of the Queen's Crown tournament, Zelina Vega took on Doudrop at Crown Jewel today. Being in Saudi Arabia, they had to wear t-shirts and long pants as Doudrop dominated the proceedings early on. Vega was able to hit a tornado DDT to turn the tide, with her eventually getting up after being nailed with a slam and running senton and hitting the Code Red to win the Queen's Crown. The bout between Lashley and Goldberg was changed to have no disqualifications and allow falls to count anywhere, as the WCW legend looked to not only beat the former WWE champion but dismantle him completely. Goldberg hit his signature spear and jackhammer in the middle of the ring but decided to take things to the outside. Despite help from the Hurt Business, he was able to put Lashley through a table off the ramp with a spear, which allowed him to get the pinfall victory. With the current WWE champion saying he would love to face Goldberg, Big E could have his next feud set up. For the King of the Ring finals, Xavier Woods took on Finn Balor in a back and forth affair. In the end, Woods was able to hit an elbow off the top rope to realize his dream of being king. Given all the hype from Woods, this was a well-deserved victory for the New Day member as he became the 22nd King of the Ring in history. And this was your pro wrestling news update. I hope you're all having a great day. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you later.